What is happening, everybody? Trey here, and today at Reactions to the Classics, gonna be bringing you a Fleetwood Mac top 10 list dubbed the Wilderness Years from 1970 to 1974. Quite looking forward to this list today and going diving deeper into a period of the Mac that isn't talked about as much as what would be in the Peter Green era, and of course the Buckingham Nicks era. And I want to shout out our longtime friend, supporter, and patron of the channel, Chris, for suggesting and coming up with this list today, as well as doing a stellar write-up job as well that we're going to be reading from and learning about the group at this time. I know Fleetwood Mac is one of Chris's favorite bands. That's how we actually first discovered each other and linked up, and Chris, regular in our live streams, has a vast musical knowledge, man. And so I'm really looking forward to just getting into this list today. So without further ado, let's get into these quick facts, man, and get going. All of this comes from Chris's words. He says, mention Fleetwood Mac and attention will usually turn to either their beginnings as a blues band led by Peter Green in the late 60s or to the incarnation fronted by Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, which released a series of multi-million selling albums from 75 to 87. What usually only gets skimmed over is the period in between, during which there was a noteworthy series of lineup changes beset by dramas just as dramatic, not to say traumatic, as the relationship breakdowns that characterized the recording of Rumors in the late 70s. In this set of 10 tracks, I'm seeking to remedy this and put the spotlight on this all too overlooked era of Fleetwood Mac. I have sought to give all members a bit of a spotlight and have sometimes picked the more significant tracks rather than necessarily my personal favorites. So without further ado, Fleetwood Mac, The Wilderness Years. Let's get to it, man. As always, gonna have the lyrics pulled up for all of these tracks. Due to copyright, the full audio won't be in this video on YouTube, but there's a link to Vimeo down below, which you can check out the full reaction uncut with all the music in there, man. So you have your options available to you. So getting into this. Prologue. 1970 was a year when it could have all fallen apart for Fleetwood Mac. Their leader and main songwriter, Peter Green, was famously given some acid to smoke at a party in Munich in Germany, and according to his colleagues, was never the same afterwards. Within a few months, he announced his departure, and his final recorded contribution was the hit single The Green Manalishi with the two-prong crown. Green was not replaced initially, as there were already two other singer-songwriter guitarists in the band, namely Jeremy Spencer and Danny Kerwin. Spencer had previously only played on tracks where he sang lead vocal, but now stepped up to the plate and participated more fully. The band went to live together at a converted oast house in Hampshire in the south of England, which gave its name to their next album, Kiln House. So hey, man, it all comes together. So first song on the list today, and we are going in chronological order here, is Blood on the Floor from that Kiln House record in 1970. Jeremy Spencer, as well as being an accomplished slide guitarist, was also known for his ability to imitate and parody other musicians. His Elvis imitation had become a staple of Mac shows by now. We see something of this in this country pastiche from the Kiln House album, where Spencer also plays piano. The album reached 36 in the UK, their last studio album to chart until the Fleetwood Mac self-titled album in 1975. So, with all that to said, I'm looking forward to this. I don't really know, I think, any of the songs on this list as I'm, skimming through it before, and so it's going to be some good discovery here. So thanks again to Chris for bringing this. Got the lyrics pulled up. Let's get into it. All right, Blood on the Floor, definitely leaning into that country, musicianship and drawl here from, Jeremy Spencer's vocals delivery. And like any good country song, we had a bitter twist at the end there where we finally get the full story of whose blood is on the floor, why is there blood on the floor here. Essentially, we get in the first verse, he says he's got a date with the hangman, so we know it's not going to turn out well with him. He says, I shot my darling 3 times or more. And then we get a little bit more full story in that third verse there, because he came home, she were lying with her legs around another man's bod. That'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. That'll really to just put the blood boiling, so to speak, man. He says, I guess we must part. They're taking my life because I shot my sweetheart. Definitely had a slower cadence throughout this entire track, and it did kind of harken me back to those old school, kind of 50s throwback country tunes that just had were very kind of dark in their subject matter. I think there's a Hank Williams tune that's like my son calls another man daddy. Like back in the day, you wouldn't think that they'd be that hard hitting, but they really were. And it seems like the Mac took inspiration from that. And man, it was totally different than any Fleetwood Mac song I've ever heard, leaning into that full country bent right there. So I quite enjoyed that, man. I quite enjoyed that. Already gonna kind of get a vibe from this list that it's gonna be different than anything I've heard from the group up to this point, of course. So now going to number 2. Before we get that though, we enter Christine McVie. In addition to the 4-piece lineup of Spencer Kerwin, John McVie, and Mick Fleetwood, a 5th musician was contributing piano and backing vocals to the Kiln House album. This was Christine McVie, who had married John 2 years before. Previously, she had recorded under her maiden name, Christine Perfect, initially as part of Chicken Shack. That's a band name right there. This band had scored in 1969 with their cover of I'd Rather Go Blind, with Christine on lead vocal. Initially, she planned to retire and be a housewife, but by 1970 had released a solo album which Danny Kerwin and John McVie contributed to. But it was quickly agreed that just the basic 4-piece lineup wasn't going to work well on tour, and that is how Christine McVie became a member of Fleetwood Mac. There's your history lesson for the day, people. And with that said, we're going now to the second song on this list. Dragonfly was a single from 1971. It was the single only release was Danny Kerwin's setting of part of a poem by W.H. Davies. Danny does all the guitar work and vocal here, although Jeremy and Christine featured on the B-side. It did not chart, but featured on the band's first greatest hits record release that same year in 71. Incidentally, W.H. Davies, who wrote the original poem, also chronicled his life as a migrant worker in his book, The Autobiography of a Super Tramp. No prizes for guessing which 70s group took their name from it. I'll give you all about 5 seconds to think about which 70s group took their name from Supertramp. All that to say, man, we're gonna rock and roll. This song's on YouTube here, so we'll be playing the audio through that, and let's get it. All right, Dragonfly, a really solid offering here by Fleetwood Mac. I thought Danny really showed out being on the vocals there. I thought he had a very mellow delivery that had a certain gravitas and seriousness to it, and all while playing on that riff that almost had it was kind of a mix of genres. There was a bit of a folky element to it with the soft rock element, and that guitar at points. I don't know, that was my favorite part of the song, was that guitar riff that almost had a bit of a otherworldly type of quality to it, and again, very relaxing, and that kind of goes with the poem, and that the lyrics that were inspired by the poem, man, describing the roses, the flowers, the dragonfly itself, which we don't get the name drop of the dragonfly until the fade out there at the end. Kind of interesting there, but very poetic, lyricism and imagery, as you'd expect. Since it was inspired by a poem, it makes sense, man. All that to say, quite enjoyed the vocal harmony as well, and in the ending section, and where Christine kind of popped up just ever so slightly, and would be obviously a kind of precursor of things to come, man. So Dragonfly, really solid offering right there. And now we are going to go to track number 3 on the list. Dun dun dun, not Blood on the Floor, people. Sands of Time. But before we do that, we have to update the group because we have Jeremy Spencer leaving the group. Chris notes, the Mac's troubles were by no means over. It was when the band was due to play the Whiskey A Go-Go in LA in February 71 that Jeremy Spencer popped out to find a bookstore and had not returned by showtime. The band tracked him down a few days later and found that he had joined a religious sect, the Children of God. Peter Green returned briefly to help complete the US tour, but had no desire to rejoin point permanently. The rest of Green's life was seen with limited musical activity, and he was plagued by mental illness, unfortunately, for much of it. A permanent replacement for Spencer was then found in American Bob Welch. Welch knew the band's friend Judy Wong and had more of an R&B jazz type of leaning. His songs also showcase a strong interest in paranormal activity. The next album was Future Games, which was also Christine McVie's first album as a full member of the group. That brings us to Sands of Time, our third track here. Chris notes, it was Danny Kirwan who gave Future Games its most beautiful track. We're going to play the single version, which is available on the 50 Years Don't Stop compilation, which is 3 minutes. The album version is around 7 minutes, so if you notice a little switch there at the end, I just switched that up. That's what Chris kind of advised, so we're going to rock with that. Christine's electric piano really makes the tune for me, and while the lyrics are a bit obscure, it's worth noting that the band now lived only about half an hour's drive from the South Coast, having bought their own property in the village of Headley. Chris notes he's personally been and seen it, and it's lovely in the middle of woodland on top of a hill. Ooh, it sounds better than the scenery I got around here in Texas, man. So going down to the sea would have been no problem for them. Future Games flopped in the UK, but was the group's first album to chart in the US, where it went to 91 and was certified gold in 2000. So it took a few decades, but it got there, man. So got the lyrics pulled up for this one. Let's hear what we got. All right, Sands of Time, bringing it right here. Man, Danny is 2 for 2 for me, coming from Dragonfly to this track right here. Yet again, the production was stellar. The rhythm section in particular on this one, and maybe it has partially to do with being a recent remaster of this single, but the bass was quite punchy in this. I thought the guitar work again was solid by Danny on here. I think the tone was just so smooth and easy on the ears, man, and I think it goes it kind of contrasted well with the more taking Chris's words here, the obscure lyricism that you can kind of run with. I think in whatever you want. It's very imagery laden. You can kind of imagine the sea and the hill that it's on and all that good stuff. The sunshine coming through. He says the magic of a blackened night, and before you go, show me all the words of love. So less for me about the lyrical content on the song, more about just the musicianship on it, which was, as I said, quite strong throughout. This would be my favorite track of the first 3 that we've had up to this point. And shout out Danny Kirwan. I wasn't really familiar with any of his Fleetwood Mac work coming in, but I've been impressed with the 2 lead songs that he's had on this list thus far, man. And now we're going to the 4th song on this list. Time to get a little sentimental, ladies and gentlemen, as we go to the record Bare Trees from 1972, Sentimental Lady. This song by Bob Welch opened the flip side of the next album, Bare Trees. It gained a new lease of life in 77 when a re-recorded version reached number 8 in the US and number 3 in Canada. The original Mac version features a second verse, which was not used on the solo version. When Bare Trees was certified platinum in 1988, it was most likely on the strength of this song, as well as interest in the band's past generated by the success of Tango in the Night. Right, Sentimental Lady, bringing it in. I'll tell you what, this was one where at the start I was like, this is a solid song, but the more it went on, the more I kind of enjoyed it and started to resonate with it, and just enjoy the chorus in particular. I'll tell you what, a lot of these songs have just a very mellow, kind of a soft, warm quality to them, and I think the song is no different. Even when you get more rockin' and Showcase, we had a little slide guitar by I'm assuming Danny Kirwan on this track, and just some different points where the licks would really kind of ramp up a bit. They still had that mellow tone to them, man. So I enjoyed that, and apparently, as I was reading a little bit about the song, Bob wrote this about his first wife, Nancy, and that chorus I think is really a highlight here. Sentimental, gentle wind blowing through my life again. Sentimental lady, gentle one. Just all those words and phrases, just I don't know, they kind of have that sense of softness, and you just kind of relax, sit back, and really let the words Bob is saying kind of wash over you, or at least I did, especially as the song continued to get ramping up. Just another track that's very easy on the ears, and it doesn't surprise me that later on in the 70s that kind of had a bit of a resurgence with the solo version. But yeah, man, really dug that one. And we are going to stay with Bare Trees here, ladies and gentlemen, as we are going to go now to Spare Me a Little of Your Love. With this song, Christine McVie began to show the beginning of her reputation as the purveyor of aching love songs. The song was covered at the time by Jackie DeShannon, although her version, produced by Van Morrison, did not see release until recent years. Van's demo of the song can be found on YouTube and is well worth the listen. Matt continued to do this song live in the early Buckingham Nicks era. And I will also kind of note a little bit of the lineup changes here as well. Exit Danny Kirwan, but the strain was beginning to tell on Danny Kirwan. As the lead guitarist and elder statesman of the songwriting team, the pressure was on him to come up with the hits, but his lyrical contributions to the Bare Trees album were very slight. The touring was taking toll on him, and he drank more and became very isolated. In addition to this, he did not get on with Bob Welch, and things came to a head when an argument between them led Kirwan to smash his guitar against the wall, trash his dressing room, and refused to go on stage. He sat by the sound desk instead and angered the band by commenting on the quality of the show he had refused to play, and Fleetwood felt he had no choice but to fire him. So now we're going to enter Bob Weston and Dave Walker. After Kirwan's departure, the band expanded to a six-piece at the insistence of their manager Clifford Davis, who had remarked, quote, "We need a lead singer who can get everybody boogieing." Yeah, bring back the word boogieing in modern-day language, people. This was an anathema to the group where lead vocals had always been shared between the group's instrumentalists, barring their namesake rhythm section. But they reluctantly accepted singer Dave Walker, previously with British blues act Savoy Brown, as well as new lead guitarist Bob Weston, previously with Long John Baldry. The next album, 1973's Penguin, took its name from bassist John McVie's obsession with the Antarctic bird, which became their emblem and has appeared in some form on most of their album covers. All right, Spare Me a Little of Your Love, the great Christine McVie, bringing the heat right here, ladies and gentlemen. Lots to enjoy about this song. First off, I think Christine's voice just is always so striking and unique, and fits so well with these the Steele and Chris's words, the aching of love songs right here, and this song was no different, man. And the chorus, with the layering of that vocal, spare me a little bit, just a little bit, just the way that the backing vocalist said that so quickly. I don't know, it was a bit odd, and yet it worked. It worked for me. It worked for this listener, ladies and gentlemen. We had a bit of a almost psychedelic like guitar solo in there, a lot of effects on that, which I thought was pretty tight. So shout out to Bob Welch and Danny Kirwan. I don't know which one was playing that solo right there, but did a great job on that. And then we kind of upped our tempo in those last 30 seconds. So less than 4 minutes, yet packed a big musical punch, so to speak, and it was definitely a precursor for the great tunes that Christine would be writing later on in the decade right here, man. So halfway through the list, and now we're going to go to number 6 here as we bid adieu, if you recall, to Danny Kirwan, and we enter Bob Weston, Dave Walker. We're going to stick now to Penguin, 1973, I'm a Road Runner. This cover of Junior Walker's Motown hit was one of only 2 recordings to feature Dave Walker on vocals. The other was his own song, The Derelict. Here, his harmonica takes the place of the saxophone on the original. He did a few gigs with the band, but ultimately was not felt to be necessary to them and was asked to leave. The next album, released in late 1973, was Mystery to Me, which will appear as our number 7 song on the list. But first up, we're going to get to I'm a Road Runner. All right, I'm a Road Runner, bringing it in, man. I don't know if I've ever heard Junior Walker's original version. This song wasn't really ringing a bell, so I got to rectify that, man. But I will say the Max version was really good, man. Just a song that, as you saw me throughout, you just kind of want to move and groove to. The harmonica in particular that Dave brought forth was roaring. The bass line by John McVie, I thought kind of supplemented and was a good supporting instrument for that harmonica as well. He had Christine on the keyboards, especially in the middle portion of the song, bringing it, and I could see this being a really good track if they, played it live or whatever. It just kind of really lets the whole band unleash. And like I said, anytime you bring a harmonica in, you're usually in for a treat right there, man. So I enjoyed the way that they rocked and rolled with that. Kind of gave a bit of a blues feel at certain points in the track as well. A lot of variety on this list so far. Speaking of just musical styles and genres, and this song is no different right there. And so I'm glad that Chris showed some love to a Dave Walker track right here. So now we're going to go to number 7 on the list from that another record, as we noted in 73, Mystery to Me. We're going to go with the track Hypnotize. Chris notes, Bob Welch was influenced to write this by the spooky atmosphere at Benefold and his reading of the writings of Carlos Castaneda. It continued to be a live anthem for the group into the early Buckingham Nicks era shows and was revived briefly for the 2018 gigs where it was sung by Neil Finn, of course, of Crowded House fame. The Pointed Sisters released a cover in 1978. Check out Mick's great drum solo, intro here rather, as well as the magnificent lead guitar from Bob Weston. Right, Hypnotize, bringing it here, man. Really impressed with, this is just the Bob Welch MVP showcasing right here, man. Writing the lyrics, obviously his vocals, and of course the stellar lead guitar that he brought forth here. As I was mentioning in the reaction, I especially like the middle instrumental section that we had. We had a constant just keyboard riff that Christine was laying down. You had, of course, Mick's intro of that drum. So you had points here where other members were able to shine a little bit, but really Bob Welch was kind of the overall star right here. And I thought at certain points it almost did kind of get into almost just that mysterious type of atmosphere, and that fit well with the smooth chorus. Seems like a dream. They got me hypnotized, and then I can just hear that incessant piano riff that Christine was rocking and rolling, and just that allowing Welch to kind of play off with his lead guitar on that, man. The first verse, it might be out on that lawn, which is wide at least half of a playing field, because there's no explaining what your imagination can make you see and feel. Once that imagination gets going, people, it's we're off to the races with that. He name drops talk in North Carolina, and I don't know, if being influenced by the writings of Carlos Castaneda. I'm not familiar with that, if some of that comes into play on these songs as well. But all that to say, man, had some pretty decent harmonizing in this song as well, and a really strong effort right there by the Mac. And we're gonna stay with this record here, and now we're gonna go, speaking of Christine, gonna go to the closer on this record, on Mystery to Me. We have Why. Chris notes, this bittersweet Christine McVie ballad that rounds out the album is a great showcase for the guitar talents of Bob Weston, and like Hypnotize, continue to be a live anthem even into 1976. Mystery to Me went gold in 76, and Christine would later say it was her third favorite Fleetwood Mac album after Rumors and their self-titled 75 effort. Sadly, again, this great lineup proved to be all too short-lived. We'll get into that after this song, ladies and gentlemen. Man, we have Why bringing it right here. What a lovely, lovely closer this is, man. Probably my favorite song on the list, honestly, up to this point. Gonna be amongst my favorites, but when we get to that at the end. But love the intro on this. We go about a 2-minute instrumental to start the song, which I thought worked well, and kind of built that anticipation. I kept wondering, all right, when's Christine finally gonna go? And then after a little bit, I didn't even care, just because the guitar playing was so stellar right here by Bob Weston, and I just thought he killed it in this track. And then boom, we have Christine coming in with some very heartfelt, heartbreaking lyrics at points. She notes there's no use in crying, it's all over. Obviously talking about this relationship. It's done. It's finished, ladies and gentlemen. But there's that optimism in this song as well. But I know there will always be another day. Well, my heart will rise up with the morning sun, and the hurt I feel will simply melt away. And then she kind of turns it to, what I'm assuming is the, person that broke her heart. You make me feel I just can't carry on, but I know I won't always be that way. And then we got almost like the signature calling card of kind of the Buckingham Nicks era of Fleetwood Mac, those great multi-layered harmonies. Those come in with our ending chorus. You don't have to give up. Why is it all wrong? Why don't you love me? Why won't you just be strong? So quite enjoyed this track. I'm going to have to give this album a listen because I really enjoyed Hypnotize and this. And so that 2 for 2 for me on a record means I got to go and check out some more of it. But all that to say, we only have 2 songs left, and number 9 on the list is Bad Loser. But before we get to that, we have some more lineup changes in here. So, exit Bob Weston, who we just heard do so well on the guitar work on Why. Chris notes, having moved into Benefold with the rest of the band, Bob Weston became very close to Mick Fleetwood's wife, Jenny. It blossomed into a full-scale affair, and although it was never consummated, made it impossible for Fleetwood to have him in the band any longer. I understand where you're coming from there, Mick. Weston was sacked during the U.S. leg of the tour, and the band returned to England. He was not replaced. Now we have the fake Mac. The rest of the group took time off over the winter of 73/4, but their manager Clifford Davis was having none of it. Insisting he owned the name Fleetwood Mac, he sent a completely different group of musicians out to finish the tour. Mick and Christine were originally supposed to be in the band, but neither ultimately wanted to perform at that time after all that had just happened. The fake Mac managed about a fortnight's worth of gigs, but were not well received by audiences who spotted that they weren't the real deal. That takes some guts by Clifford Davis to roll out a group that is not, I mean, just what, that's false advertising at its finest right there, people. Now we have the Atlantic Crossing. Eventually the band agreed that in order to win the legal case for their name, they would have to move to live in the U.S. to maintain closer contact with Warner Brothers, who had been their record company since 1969. They sold Benefold and relocated in a move that was to change the band's course more radically than they could have hoped for. The next album was Heroes Are Hard to Find, which is what our number 9 song, Bad Loser, comes off of. Chris knows I've only picked one from Heroes album because I'm saving a special treat for the end. Christine apparently wrote this one for Clifford Davis, their now former manager, in the wake of the whole fake Mac scandal. Check out Mick going absolutely mad on percussion here. To me, this is what Christine McVie does best. Razor sharp sentiments delivered in a sweet voice. All right, Bad Loser. Let me tell you, if I'm Clifford Davis, I don't want Christine singing me these words right here, man. That wouldn't feel too good. MVP of this song, though, is the man himself, Mick Fleetwood. Just absolutely destroying the percussion there, man. You could just cue in and kind of listen to his beats that he was laying down throughout the entire song. The different types of fills that he were doing were really impressive. I'm not a drummer. I just know whenever somebody's really killing it, and I'll tell you what, Mick Fleetwood absolutely destroyed this song, man. Love that. And I love the yet again the smooth vocal harmonies we got here. And don't we can't forget about old Bob Welch on guitar right here too. He had some really mean licks in here. And once you know the backstory of this song, it really kind of hits that different level. The chorus: "Are you just a bad loser, but you'd never let go? Yes, you'll go down, but you'll never let it show." And Christine also notes, "Won't buy you peace of mind, all because you did what you did. You're not the peaceful kind." I think you really know what I mean, but I'll tell you one more time. "Oh, because it's the truth and you know it, that you're no friend of mine." Christine and company leaving no sense of the imagination here in Clifford's mind, like, maybe could we ever re-engage in business dealings? No, that's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, anytime soon. So really enjoyed this one, Christine. Some great tracks here. I've been really enjoying this list, and now we're going to our final song here. But before we do, we have to bid adieu to Bob Welch here. Heroes Are Hard to Find was released in September of 74 and followed by a short tour. It was towards the end of these dates that Bob Welch announced he was leaving the group. He had had enough, and one can only assume that being back in his home country made him feel there was no more personal necessity for him in staying in the band. It wasn't long afterwards that Mick Fleetwood was introduced to a struggling duo called Buckingham Nicks. He invited their guitarist Lindsey Buckingham to join the group, but Buckingham said he would only do so if his partner Stevie Nicks were also allowed on board. The rest, of course, is history. So what's going to be your number 10? song, ladies and gentlemen, it's Stretch with Why Did You Do It, single in 1975. The fake Fleetwood Mac renamed themselves Stretch and enjoyed a UK top 20 hit with this song in late 1975. The song was the band's own take on the whole episode, but was not aimed at Clifford Davis, but at Mick Fleetwood, whom the band felt let them down, having not joined them on the tour. Chris says that I've included it here as a postscript to this overlooked era of Fleetwood Mac. So we'll enjoy this. Then we're going to go to a little segment, Whatever Happened To, and run down all the band members. And then I will note my favorite tracks of this list. All right, Stretch, Why Did You Do It? Really cool tidbit of musical history right here. So I'm glad Bostart included it. And again, once you know what it's about, directed at old Mick here, the damage is much deeper than you'll ever see. Hit me like a hammer to my head. I wonder, were you pushed or were you led? The only one who knows the truth. Man, it's him, me, and you. But I know they never understand it because it was no accident. You planned it. So yeah, you could, if you were just listening to this at the time, didn't know the backstory, you could be like, oh man, our title character has something out against somebody who's done him wrong, so to speak. And I thought that kind of the funky nature we had a little bit of that horn section came in the latter half of the song, which I always enjoy. Very energetic, man, full of life, this song right here. And hey man, very solid musicianship, maybe not to the level of the Mac, but I can see why Clifford would have hired him on. Still a scummy move to to advertise Fleetwood Mac when you know for a fact that they're going to be taking a break. But hey, man, it was the 70s, right? So now we're going to go to a little Whatever Happened To segment right here. Whatever happened to Jeremy Spencer? He is still with the Children of God, now known as Family International. The group has changed a lot over the years, and Spencer became free to return to recording and performing more in his own right. He has recorded prolifically since 2006, but in recent years his work has mostly been instrumental and available only in digital format. Danny Kerwin released 3 solo records in the late 70s, but by 1979 was down on his luck and sleeping rough. He spent some time in a mental hospital, and although he regained some mental balance and returned to playing guitar, did not like talking about his time with Fleetwood Mac, although he gave one interview to a British newspaper in 1993. He saw out his days in a hostel for the homeless and died in 2018 following a bout of pneumonia. Dave Walker, on the other hand, sang with a few other bands. He briefly was recruited to Black Sabbath in 1977 until Ozzy Osbourne retracted his initial decision to leave and return for one more album. He also returned to Savoy Brown for a while in the late 80s. More recently, he lent his voice to the tribute act Green Sabbath. Bob Weston mostly worked as a session musician after Fleetwood Mac, most notably recording and touring with Murray Head. He also played on Sandy Denny's final record and released 3 solo records. Mick Fleetwood even played on one track. Neither of them were with Jenny anymore by then. He was found dead at his London flat in January 2012. And then our other Bob Welch, initially had quite a promising career after the Mac. He formed the power trio Paris with original Jethro Tull bassist Glenn Cornick, but this broke up after a couple of albums. His first solo album, French Kiss, in 1977, featured his hit re-recording of Sentimental Lady, which featured Mick Fleetwood, Christine McVie, and Lindsey Buckingham. His second album, Three Hearts, featured more contributions from his former colleagues, and further hits included Ebony Eyes and Precious Love, but his success waned with time and he recorded less and less. He re-emerged with a jazz record in 1999 and did 2 albums of re-recordings of his Mac-era songs, but sadly took his own life in 2012 following a period of physical and mental illness. So thanks to Chris for letting us know what happened. Unfortunately, a lot of sadness and turmoil for a lot of our people in here, but I'm glad that we could celebrate their work in this top 10 today. A couple honorable mentions that Chris couldn't include on the list. He has Station Man from Kiln House in 1970, a Kerwin Spencer John McVie collab. This too survived as a live staple for some years. At the Peter Green tribute concert in 2020, Pete Townsend performed the song after announcing to the audience that the riff for Won't Get Fooled Again had come from Station Man. Nice little trivia note there. Another honorable mention, Tell Me All the Things You Do, also from Kiln House. Another one revived in 2018 with Neil Finn singing the part of the late Danny Kerwin. Also The Ghost from Bare Trees in 72, a particular favorite of Chris's among Bob Welch's song, again influenced by the spooky feeling around Benefold. Also giving love to Did You Ever Love Me, Christine McVie ballad released as a single and featuring steel drums. And then Bermuda Triangle, another Bob Welch paranormal instrumental classic off of Heroes Are Hard to Find, which I guess will segue us nicely into my favorite tracks here. In no particular order, I'm going to be going Dragonfly. Shout out to Danny Kerwin, man. Sands of Time. I thought that song really had quite a great rhythm section and just worked well instrumentally in particular. I'm also going to go. I'm going to have a lot of McVie on my list. Honestly, I'm going to be going with "Spare Me a Little of Your Love." I'm also going to go with the two Mystery to Me tracks, "Hypnotized" and "Why." I think "Why" was my favorite track actually on this entire list. If I had to nail down just one, and just overall thoughts on the list, I thought that Chris did a fantastic job giving us the different types of members and what they offered in their brief time. For most of them, with the band, I was impressed with the musicianship throughout. I thought the Bob Welsh guitar work in particular was great. Christine McVie really impressed me too on her vocals and even her keyboard work, and of course Fleetwood, just the constant drumming presence in there, setting the musical foundation. You had those portions of great backing vocals and harmonies, which would of course go to the next level with Buckingham and Nix. And all in all, man, really impressed with this. It goes to show too that you could ask somebody their favorite Fleetwood Mac record, and you might get a lot of different responses depending on how long they've been a fan of the band and what type of styles they like of them. The Mac, man, really delivering here in this early 70s period. So let me know your favorites from these wilderness years of Fleetwood Mac, and be sure to show some love to Chris for putting together this list and the fantastic history lesson and write-up. I learned a lot myself here, and I hope you did as well. And man, we also have a lot of Fleetwood Mac reviews and reactions up that you can check out. We'll put it on the end screen along with our a link to our Patreon. If you'd like to have us do a reaction for you, you can check that out and support the channel. Always a good time of a community of music lovers right there. But I guess, ladies and gentlemen, that'll wrap it up from here today. So until next time, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and I will see you.